Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. As Jim said, I'm Ed Chang and I work at the Chernin Group, a private media entertainment company. Steve, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Steve Fowler from Amazon Game Studios, work in the marketing side there with them. Been in the games business about 20 years.
Got it. So we mentioned Amazon Game Studios. I think it's still somewhat of a black box. I think people are just starting to learn about it. Can you kind of describe Amazon Game Studios in terms of the vision, what you guys are working on, 10,000 foot overview?
Yeah, it can be fairly complicated. We've got kind of our hands in a little bit of everything, but I can kind of paint the picture of the ecosystem we're trying to build. So Amazon is the leader in cloud infrastructure with AWS. Turns out that that's really good to do multiplayer online gaming. And so that's where it was kind of birthed and started. And so from there, we have created our own game engine. There's an engine out there called Lumberyard. It's in beta right now. It's free to use for developers. And the vision for Lumberyard was to make it really simple for game developers and publishers to get their games onto the cloud. And then next, we bought this little company called Twitch. Twitch is the premier streaming platform. Yoast gave you all the numbers, so I don't have to give you any of the numbers, which is great. The other parts of Lumberyard that we've been working on, which, taking a step back, Lumberyard was originally begun from Crytek, a Cry engine purchase that we did about 2.5 years ago. And our engineers have since branched paths with Crytek and added features to get games onto the cloud, added features and functionality to enhance games as a viewable entertainment form for Twitch, and just make really kick-ass games with. We also most recently acquired a company called Curse, the Curse Networks. If you know about Curse, Curse started out as a conglomerate of really core fan sites for PC games, League of Legends sites and World of Warcraft sites. They also have a platform which has voice communications and IM, instant messenger, ways for socialization to happen. So Amazon is trying to foster an ecosystem that allows for community engaged games, right? We want to provide tools for our customers and provide games for players that they identify with, that they become communities for. So there's more than that too, but that's already enough.
Got it. So we're really looking at esports maturing as like a viewership destination, right? And so I think for the longest time, people have compared like the quality or the production value of traditional sports broadcasts to esports broadcasts. Not altogether fair, but I think we're starting to see kind of signs of esports really coming into its own with things like the LCS and E-League. What do you think esports is doing really well today in terms of reaching out to viewership and as its own medium? Do you have any favorite broadcasts or streamers that you like to watch?
I'm really impressed with Turner. The E-League stuff is top notch. I think that having television production companies that know how to do that, that are experts in that, has really shook up our industry a bit. I am a fan of E-League. Watch the majors that just happened. There's some incredible competition going on. I'm an avid CSGO player, and I understand the game enough to appreciate the skill that's being demonstrated by these guys. There were some incredible comebacks in the majors that happened this year, and they just broadcast it probably better than I've ever seen it, both on Twitch, but also on TV on their network. Other people showed you numbers about what happened on Twitch and on the TV. That's kind of my go-to, like they're doing it best right now, as far as on streams and on TV. Obviously, the LCS is awesome from a live event perspective. The stuff that they put on over at the Staples Center and the performances and the theatrics and it's a really intense place to sit. Got to go a few times to Intel Extreme Masters with ESL. They've been up here, also impressive. I'm actually in Vegas this weekend to go to DreamHack, so I think there's a lot of guys that I really appreciate. A lot of people in the space that are doing great work.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the maturing is some of it is catching up and copying what traditional sports have done. Like the LCS and E-League have both done a really good job of kind of going in depth beyond just the gaming, like talking about the backgrounds of a lot of these players, their family histories, some conflict and things like that. But let's look at actually like things that esports can do out of the box. So you mentioned this earlier, you guys are in a very unique position being both the game publisher and the platform in terms of Twitch. What do you think publishers should be doing to optimize for esports viewing, and then what is Amazon doing specifically?
Well, Amazon's a very customer-focused company, and so in addition to all those tools I mentioned, we're also making games. So Amazon Game Studios, we have 4 development teams that are making games that would be for these audiences that we put out there. And so when we talk to our game designers, our engineers, we're talking with them from inception around the entire player customer journey, right? What does it mean from somebody who sees a video of one of our games and goes, wow, that's interesting, asks their friend about it, all the way through to how do they go through our websites and register, how are they watching others play on Twitch and on YouTube and others, through the play experience itself. So the entire customer journey. But it's not just the player journey anymore, it's now also the viewer journey. So we ask our game developers all the time, what if success wasn't necessarily, I think it was 75 million monthly actives for League of Legends, but what if that was one of the parts of success? What if more success was 200 million active viewers? What would that do differently into the way you think about creating games? How would you design the game to be more fun to watch, more engaging, more along the lines, as you say, to traditional sports, which is kind of the gold standard. NFL, as an example, just amazing in the production values that they're able to put out, where we're really, really early, right? You mostly watch League of Legends or CSGO from the player perspective. Imagine if you had to watch the Super Bowl from Tom Brady's perspective the entire time. It would get pretty stale. So we have a long way to go, and I'm super excited because I think there's really unique things that we can do that even traditional sports can't do because we're an interactive entertainment. We have code that we can use and make different viewer experiences because we know the data that happens from these electronic sports.
Got it. Like, so what are some of these experiences that you can offer?
So at TwitchCon this year, we actually announced a couple of features that was demonstrated by one of our first games called Breakaway. Breakaway is, if you haven't seen it, it's a 4v4 competitive game. Kind of think if you mixed Rocket League with Smite. So it's heroes, like Smite-based heroes, third-person camera, brawler, if you will. But the objective is to grab a ball and score it, we call it the relic, and score it in the other guy's hoop, right? Kind of like Rocket League. When we announced that, we also announced 4 different features that were demonstrated in that. One is called MetaStream. MetaStream, if you think about it, is, let's say you're watching a streamer on Twitch. It's very much like ESPN ticker, right? So there's data and information, kill-death ratios, how much has been healed, who's up, like it's overlays for streamers, right? So the viewing audience having much more information than just what the player perspective is. Another feature we announced was Stream Plus. Stream Plus is the ability for a streamer to use a game, in this case Breakaway, the data from that game, to offer challenges and have interactive experiences with the viewers. So very simple thing could be, who's going to win this match, red team, blue team? And then viewers can vote. And then as they vote, and they're right or win, they can get virtual currency that eventually they can spend within Breakaway, as an example. A couple other features like Broadcaster Spotlight. Broadcaster Spotlight is where if you're in Breakaway and someone in that game happens to be streaming, you'll know, because they'll have a little icon above their head, oh, I'm being streamed in this game. And if you like that person that's streaming, you can actually click on their avatar in the game and follow them directly on Twitch. So stuff like that is what we're already working on. It's already public, but there's so many other cool stuff, cool things that I'd have to NDA the entire audience.
Can you at least tell the audience that, some of these features, are they going to be baked in only to Amazon games? Are they going to be available as a service to any developer who wants to integrate this and kind of enhance the viewing experience? How does Amazon see that?
Yeah, I think that in general, Amazon wants to have open platforms. So Lumberyard is a good example, right? So the features that we've built for Breakaway are demonstrated in Breakaway, but we have plans and goals that those become native to the engine itself. Like, we don't have monetization schemes around Stream Plus, or those are just going to all help grow the ecosystem. And esports is still really early, and shutting off and creating exclusivity and creating barriers to features or to access or to player communities is just going to slow us down. So we really want to be inclusive in the way that we're thinking about the tools we build and the games that we build and the experiences we provide for players.
So just really touch on it. You mentioned like exclusivity is not the greatest thing for kind of a game in its infancy. You guys do own Twitch. Kind of how do you see that relationship? Is it, whatever's best for the audience is best for the game, or how does Amazon see that?
Oh, it's absolutely where we start. We start with players. And Amazon as a company, even beyond games, most people have experienced Amazon, whether you're buying something on the platform.com or retail, or you use AWS for your games that you're hosting. Fundamentally, Amazon is built on customer trust. And so what that means is we are not willing to take short-term advantages at the exchange of long-term success. So we are only worried about building brand, building customer trust. We have a long way to go in proving that we're creative in this space. Amazon has no street cred there, right? Great companies that are well beyond us that we hope to achieve the same sorts of success. But what we do have is, I think that a couple days ago, yesterday, there was a Harris poll that came out, and then the most respected corporate brands in the world. We were lucky enough to be the #1 brand globally for 2 years in a row. That takes commitment, it takes long-term vision, and it takes the ability to say, no, that's fine. We can take it on the chin today if that means this person or this player base feels like we created value for them, or we empathized with them, like we understood where they were coming from, and we were willing to try to keep that relationship, because later on, eventually they'll spend money and we'll all be happy. So.
Right. Back to kind of the comparison with traditional sports. So I think when we look at traditional sports audiences, a ton of the people don't actually play that sport, but they watch it. And I think Yost touched upon it. It's like almost like a 50-50 type thing right now. I mean, it's not hard to look at a League of Legends screen, even for me, and be like, I have no idea what the hell is going on, right? And you can extrapolate that to many other games, whereas for soccer, football, basketball, it's pretty simple. Do you think this is something on kind of the publisher side to make the game easier, to kind of make a better tutorial? Do you think it could be solved by content marketing? Like maybe we're just not thinking about how to explain this correctly. Is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think there's lots of ways to approach it. So from where we sit, one of the things we're trying to do is approach it from technology. So the examples of Stream Plus and MetaStream, that sort of thing. You could imagine that, let's say in the future, I'll forecast out a bit, a game from us or from Activision or from the next Riot game, that we're not the only ones that are thinking about this. There's really smart people that are thinking about these things. But as I mentioned earlier, the advantages we have, even over traditional sports, is for, let's say, a viewer on Twitch, is we have all this data that comes from the game and sits on servers. And so let's say there's a breakaway pro event someday, right? The people in the live audience are seeing feeds, and hopefully we can continue to improve the quality of live events to E-League status or even beyond. But we have that data that runs on those servers. What if we were able to take that game data, move it to another set of servers, put a delay, right? So the home viewing audience are seeing 20, 30 seconds later on. And then on those servers, we have code. The code that's on that servers already knows what happened in the game, right? We know that, okay, the blue team were fighting red team on point A, and that's where the camera was for the live audience. But actually, there was a 1v1 that happened on point B that really shifted the balance of that match. We missed it live, right? Maybe they could show a replay. But we know that that was where really the action was happening. If we're running really sophisticated code and logic on the second server set, imagine what we might be able to do. That smart camera itself might know that ahead of time and give just the perfect angle of that 1v1 match that actually swayed the balance of that. Many other things, like you could imagine giving the viewer a much better understanding of statistical probability of wins or losses of a particular encounter. So that 1v1, it's a guy with a shotgun versus a guy with a sniper rifle, right? Guy with a sniper rifle might only have 15% chance to win in this encounter versus a shotgun, which is a much better close-up weapon, right? We could slow down that, bring up the statistical probabilities, and then go back into a real encounter. And then the viewer, if they see that somehow the guy with the sniper rifle overcame that great challenge, knows how much drama that was. It's like, how do we get things into the games that we're building that replicate traditional sports big moments? Hail Mary passes, slam dunks, grand slams. We need to make that more apparent for viewers, more apparent for the casual viewer audiences. I watched the majors, and there was I forget which match it was, but there was a 5v1 comeback. The guy that was 1 actually took out 5. And that's a huge thing in professional Counter-Strike, right? It's massive. And because I played the game And because I knew what to look for, I understood how big that was. I showed that to a colleague of mine who doesn't play, and he's like, so what happened there? Like, it's so fast. These guys are so precise that if you're just looking from their perspective, it literally, like, he's got 1 pixel difference between him getting the headshot and kill versus not getting the headshot and kill. And by the time he pulls the trigger, he's already looking to the right-hand side. You don't even see that guy go down. There's got to be ways that we can expose how cool those moments are through technology in our point or other production value things from other.
Well, I think you guys have set the bar really high, so we're looking forward to see some of those things come into fruition. Before we go into kind of question and answer, we have a lot of brands in the audience or non-endemics who are looking to get into the space. Like, do you have any advice in general for some of these companies and these brands on how to really get involved in this whole viewership and esports relationship? Like, do you have any advice, pitfalls to avoid, anything?
Yeah. Add value. These communities, as it's been mentioned already many times, can suss out who's looking for the quick buck. The best way to get adoption from these audiences and these communities is to provide value to them. A very small example was the Mountain Dew piece, right? Mountain Dew could be looked at as a sellout. They're just trying to make money off of esports because it's cool, young, millennial men who probably are their primary demographic. But the way that they approached it was very simple. It was like, let's provide hints, tips, and tricks videos for players that are trying to get better at the game and use pros to do that, right? So that adds the level of authenticity. So authenticity is thrown out also out there. But if you just think about long-term vision, like, are you going to invest into esports and expect immediate return or profit? You're probably not going to be that successful because the choices that it'll force you to make will not provide value, will probably not be seen as authentic. So you need to have a long-term vision of, this is core to our company's success for tens of years. And then start in a humble, authentic, and value offering proposition. How can I help this community grow? What can I offer to them that's unique maybe to our brand that other brands can't offer? So, pretty simple.
Cool.
Yeah, let's do some questions. Got any questions out here from the audience? There's a question way over there on the far side as we run over with the mic. Remember, we are live streaming this as well. Hashtag AList Summit if you're going to be sending any social stuff out. And I've got a question. Go ahead.
You mentioned long-term planning. When you started this process many years ago, how did that look? Was that a 3-year plan? Was it incremental? When you built it up with your corporate management, what exactly expectations did you set, and how did you go about explaining to them what your goals would be, both short-term and long-term?
I'd probably be out of my element because I've only been at Amazon for a year. So it goes back to the Amazon leadership principles. As I mentioned, the company takes long-term vision. You'd probably need to ask guys that have been there longer than me. Mike Frazzini, who leads our org, is a great guy and is probably a better person to answer that. And if you want, we can follow up and I can give you contact information from our PR group.
Other questions? Got a question right over there. Yes, sir.
Steve, thanks, Ed. Thanks, guys. So, branding and partnerships and sponsorships. How do you think about it when you're developing your product? Is that a consideration set, or really you just defer that to Twitch and that will be the ad platform or a revenue generator? Or is there any insights in thinking? I mean, Amazon really is the largest retail space in the world, and brands obviously have cross-connective and the experience you're doing. Is that ever talked about in any of the planning or any of the sets about revenue or partners or sponsors in the journey, or is it just focus on the game experience and leave it to Twitch on the back end for maybe brands to somehow get along for the ride?
Yeah, no, not from the game design perspective. We don't start with, hey, what would be the in-game monetization efforts, or how could we get brands to be in our game? It's more about the player experience, starting with what's best for players, what's best for communities, what are the features and functionalities and genres and settings that would most excite gamers, whether it's an esport gamer or not an esport gamer. We don't really think from the beginning around how to get endemic or non-endemic brands as part of the native play experience. It's more about making sure that the game is one of the best games ever to play and super amazing fun to watch. That's complicating it with more than that that's already really hard to do.
Cool. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, we have one way over there. We have time for a really quick question over in the corner. Little known fact about Steve, he actually worked on the original Halo when it was coming out with Xbox, which didn't have an esport component to it. But it's very cool. Go ahead.
So you've talked a lot about the core platform, and Twitch is the streaming engine, but Amazon has so many other moving parts. Film studio, Amazon Prime. Is there a broader strategy to create shoulder content that goes beyond just the Amazon gaming component?
We have so much to do just in our core businesses. Eventually, maybe, that could be a hope. I think it would be awesome to have VOD shows on Amazon Prime for our games, or have Alexa be able to play games with you with voice technology and machine learning stuff. Like, I want to have drones that'll drop off our games in your front yard. But for now, we have no customers, and we've got this little baby engine, and we've got to figure out how to make great games first. But I think, yeah, the sky is the limit. It's awesome to be at a company with that amount of resources and that amount of potential.